Welcome to Break the Pipeline, brought to you by the law offices of Sauda Johnson PC. I am Sauda Johnson-McNeal, the founder and CEO of the firm. I've been an attorney for over 20 years, and I'm licensed in New York and California.
Hi, I'm Naomi Barrera. I am an attorney licensed in the state of New York, and like Sauda, I have also been practicing for over 20 years.
At Break the Pipeline, we dig into the real-life factors that shape children's lives. As attorneys, we analyze all sides, the legal intent and the real-life impact.
From school discipline and child labor to family conflict and mental health, we explore how laws and decisions can influence the path a child takes.
Our mission is to understand what affects kids and how we can help move them forward. This is Break the Pipeline.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Welcome to Break the Pipeline, brought to you by the law offices of Sauda Johnson PC. I am Sauda Johnson-McNeal, California and New York attorney.
And I am Naomi Barrera, New York attorney. Good to be with everyone today.
Naomi, we got a hot topic today. Do parents have a constitutional right to know what's happening with your child at school?
Yeah, a lot of our topics are interesting, but this one right here, Sauda, I don't know. We got a lot to talk about on this one.
Okay, well, let's get right into it. So let's talk about the first part of this, right? You know what? Break the Pipeline. We always talk about the two sides. And what are we really discussing here? I would say that the media right now has been talking about transgender issues. That is very much what's happening, especially in California, on my side of the country, Naomi, whether or not parents get to find out if their child is transitioning from one sex to the other, transgender. And does the school district have to tell them legally? Do they have to tell them?
But
that's one of the issues.
That's not the only debate, Sauda. I think
you're right. Okay. What else we got?
I think the media is hyper focused on gender identity, but let's look at the macro view. What about if a child has issues with abuse, suicide, religion?
You're right.
It's a lot
Pregnancy.
of different things.
Yeah. What about if a child gets pregnant? She don't want the parent to know and the school knows. You're right. I think everything has been about transgender or whether or not somebody is, likes the same gender in terms of sexuality. But it's bigger than that. I could give you that. But we are going to talk about the transgender issue and the sexuality issue because it is happening right now. So we can't ignore it. But
absolutely.
Let's talk about both sides, right? What's the constitutional side in your perspective?
Well, the constitutional issues are parents' rights versus students' privacy, right? At what age can a child claim to have privacy rights? The law says
none.
Listen, the law does.
So you 18, you ain't got no rights.
I mean, in a normal household, then I can see that, right? But let's not forget that some households are non-traditional in terms of all the different experiences that children may have. It could be neglect, it can be abuse, it can be trying to force kids to be something that they're not. This is why the transgender conversation is at the forefront right now. The debate constitutionally is parent rights to make decisions for their child versus a child having privacy rights. And at what age can a child have that?
And
yes.
Go ahead. No, I was going to say, and when we talk about student privacy, don't forget now, we're talking about in the context of at school.
Yeah.
So it's not just whether a child has privacy rights in general, it's whether or not the child has privacy rights. And if the school district has to basically honor the parents' rights constitutionally, or if they have to honor the child's rights because schools are here for the kids.
Well,
I just want to make sure people understand the issue.
Let's jump right in, though. Let's take one issue at a time. Let's go pregnancy, Sauda.
Okay, you want to talk about the law first, or you want to just jump in? Because I'm good either way. Let's talk about pregnancy. Let's go.
Let's go into the issue, and then we'll close off with the law, right? Just to tie it nice little bow.
So pregnancy. Who are you talking about? A boy getting a girl pregnant, or a girl getting pregnant? When we talk about pregnancy,
this is the scenario.
That's the thing.
This is the scenario. 15-year-old girl goes into her counselor's office in school and says, "I think I am pregnant." The question becomes, does that counselor protect that child's disclosure? Or now, like with the mandated reporting, right? Like if a teacher knows that a child is being abused, that teacher is mandated to report, right? We have the
Yeah,
same
but Nay,
situation here.
you're not talking about the issue though, because you just said if she gets pregnant, and then you brought up if there's a mandated reporter if she's abused. Are we talking about a situation where she was raped and then got pregnant, which is very different if she had consensual sex and got pregnant? So tell me the scenario so I know what I'm jumping in on.
Consensual. I didn't even get into the behind the scenes of how she got pregnant because,
But that matters.
yeah, but consensual right now, that opens up a whole nother debate. Can a 15-year-old give consent to have sex under the law?
I think so. If the person is not over 18, I think so.
Okay.
Two kids can consensually have sex. Now, you can't quote me because I haven't looked up the law, but I've never heard of a law saying that they can't.
Let's leave it at it was consensual. Two kids got in trouble. She goes now and discloses it to her counselor. The issue before us right now is, does that counselor have a duty to disclose it to the parent, because it is the parent's right to take care and make decisions on behalf of their child?
That's a good one. Okay, well, what say me in the world of break the pipeline is we're going to talk about both sides. So the law, from my understanding, is reproductive rights in California. The student owns those rights, even though they're under 18, and the parents do not have a right to know what's happening with the daughter as it comes to her private reproductive rights. That's a tricky one. You could see both sides of the story, because on the one hand, you as the parent, you want to know what's going on with your child. Now, of course, some people say, well, you should know what's going on with your child in the household, but I mean, that's a whole other conversation. And then the other side of this is her body. She has the right to decide whether she wants to tell the mom. If we're looking at both sides, I'm going to say parental rights should trump. I think constitutionally, from the law, parents should have the right to know what's happening with their child, even if she's pregnant, that they should have a right to know if the school knows. I don't think it's fair for the school to know anything that the parent doesn't know, because the school is not raising my child. I'm raising my child. Now, if the school doesn't know, then we're not having this conversation.
Well, here's the other side.
Finds out, you're not the parent.
Here's the other side.
Okay, well,
here's the other side.
Tell me what.
This 15-year-old is in a single parent household where she is experiencing mental abuse, neglect, and is fearful that disclosure to her parent would mean abandonment and becoming homeless. That's the other side. So now that child's privacy, the question becomes, if we disclose this to the parent based on that side, right? The side of parent being fully informed, will that cause that child not to become homeless? Because that parent is not going to be supportive. Now, in New York, surprisingly, schools are mandated to not inform the parents. They definitely give the student the right to have privacy in
Same
New York
as in California, the reproductive rights.
Yes. It's a murky one. It's really hard for us to separate ourselves as parents from this scenario. I pride myself in having a household where I hope my children feel comfortable coming to talk to me even before they go to their counselor. I acknowledge that not every child has the freedom to do that in their household. At some point, if the child is going to be in danger of becoming homeless, does the onus not get back on the school side to protect that child?
Let's talk about the middle ground situation. I don't know that there's ever going to be, particularly with this issue of pregnancy, if there's ever going to be a cut and dry answer, because it's going to depend on where you fall. If you're religious and your religious beliefs is that your daughter cannot have an abortion and the school's trying to basically help the daughter with that, then religion might come in. It may trump that. You know what I'm saying? If it's a case of rape, it's one of those things where my child has been abused, you know about it, I need to know whether she's pregnant or not.
To your point, as far as the middle ground, I believe that parents' rights should supersede. But to your point, in terms of it being a case-by-case scenario, given what the school knows about that kid's household, should definitely be a factor here.
Oh, it just popped in my head. I didn't mean to cut you off. But the suicide piece of it. There's a real situation here. Again, we're staying on the pregnancy topic, but I'm bringing in these other topics that are very much relevant and don't even have to be connected to pregnancy. But what I was thinking about is, what if a child is pregnant? Let's say it's worst case scenario. She did get raped and now she is suicidal. What you going to do, school? You're just not going to tell the parent? At what point does parent have a right to know what is going on with their daughter?
It depends on the scenario. That scenario you just pointed, I think the school will be highly irresponsible to not disclose that to the parent, just because there's so many different layers and levels to it. God
But
forbid
would they
something.
be though? I mean, would they be? Let's think about it though. Reproductive rights. We are both women. When we were teenagers, is that something that we really wanted to be disclosed? I mean, and can you really do both sides? Like we talk about, oh, well, it depends on the scenario, but is the law really that kind of iffy? Is it like that where you can just say, well, maybe, or and again, it might be. I'm just throwing it out there,
Well,
man.
so your example is not only has she been raped, now she's pregnant, and now also suicidal. If that student takes her life, I'm suing them out of that school because you knew
The who?
it.
You suing the what?
I bleeped myself.
Right.
But the point is, if you knew that my child was raped, was pregnant, and has suicidal ideation, and you did not disclose it, and then she commits suicide, I'm suing because you should have told me. As a parent, I have the right to know. There's the law. Yes, the schools have to follow the law. But I think there has to be that middle ground where schools, like individuals, have to use common sense. And that scenario just rises to such a high degree. And the other point too, I don't want no school helping my child with an abortion. Whether I agree with abortions or not, that's like besides the point. That's not the school's role. What do you think?
I want to make sure that the reproductive rights are protected for this little girl. I want to make sure that she has the ownership, the independence, the courage to even come forward to talk to somebody. Because let's use that as the example. You just said it. What if she does come from an abusive household and she cannot talk to somebody at her house? I would prefer that this little girl talk to somebody, even if it's at school, than talk to no one, because maybe that person at school is the person who stops her from committing suicide. Whereas if she goes home and tells that parent, that's the person who triggers her to commit suicide. So I don't know. This is one of those cases where break the pipeline where there are truly two sides to the argument, and it really just depends. Even with the law being the way it is, you have to look at it within the specific area that we're talking about.
Yes.
Reproductive rights. Then you know how it goes. You got to balance it against the parental rights. Then you got to balance it against the child's mental health. Like, I wouldn't want to be the judge on that case.
It also depends what state we're talking about, right? Let's be clear. We're not doing this in a vacuum. Depending on the state that you're in, depending on which political leanings that state may have, will dictate what happens in that particular scenario. But there's no easy answer and there's no easy fix, and we're not here to give an answer or a side that's going to win. Let's move on to another issue.
Well, let's talk about the elephant in the room.
Yeah.
Let's just get at it.
Yeah.
Transgender.
Yeah.
That's just a huge one. Matter of fact, I literally just saw something yesterday that they have transgender dolls now. I don't know if you've heard about this.
Transgender dolls?
Dolls. Yep. And coming into the schools where you can have a doll and you can change their body parts. Trans dolls with removable genitalia to hit classrooms this fall for kids as young as 4 to learn about different options. Now, this may seem off topic, but it's not.
It is not.
Does a parent have a right to know that they are teaching their child about trans dolls? And this is whether you agree with if someone's transgender or not transgender. Do you agree with the school district knowing something about your child, knowing the particular topic, which is a sensitive topic, and you don't have to tell the parent? And I just brought up the example of trans dolls, but we haven't even jumped into the case law about what's happening right now in California regarding transgender.
Yes, let me step back for a second.
Please, yeah.
The doll scenario is the type of education that the school is providing. To me, that's slightly different from my child is disclosing to you that she prefers to be a he or vice versa.
I hear you, but the issue is still, like we said in the beginning, is what the school has to tell the parent or not. Like,
right.
At the end of the day, whether it's a trans doll, yes.
Let me get through my thought, right?
My bad. Go ahead. My bad.
So what I'm saying is, if my child comes to you and says, I really feel like I am the opposite sex, because that child feels safe disclosing that to you, teacher, you counselor. Remember, the underlying issue for a lot of these kids is not holding it all in and having someone to support them in whatever their experience is. And so if that child feels comfortable to say that to you, knowing that at home, there's going to be repercussions for that disclosure, or that child would just have to live with the challenge of knowing that he or she wants to be different and not feeling free to do that at home. So back to your question. Does the school have a responsibility to disclose that to the parents? What's going on with the Supreme Court case as recent as 2026, Sauda, on this very issue out of California?
The prominent 2026 court case regarding school disclosure policies in California, Mirabelli versus Banta. March 2nd, U.S. Supreme Court blocked California school policies that restricted districts and teachers from disclosing a student's gender identity or social transition to their parents. What are we talking about here when we say that? Okay, bottom line is California created a policy and it said, hey, school, you do not have to tell the parent if a child has decided that they were born a girl and want to be a boy, or vice versa. And the Supreme Court blocked it. And they said, no. Here's the decision. 6-3 emergency order. They decided that the core value here is the Constitution. And that falls under the First and 14th Amendment. Parental rights are protected by the First and 14th Amendment, and the schools cannot do that. That's what the Supreme Court is saying right now.
I suspect that decision is going to make its way into many different states on many different issues, right? We know this is not a political podcast, but we do understand that laws are enforced and
just say it. Depending on who's in office, the politician that's in office.
There. Can I get
okay? I'm just saying.
Let's own words.
All right, use your own words. Let's not beat around the bush. Whoever's in office, that's going to impact the law.
That's the bottom line. The Supreme Court, we have a conservative, uber conservative Supreme Court right now. I would argue that this decision is based out of a super conservative background. Let's take it through the different steps, right? That child instinctively knows that he or she is a different gender, not just what they were designated in the hospital. Based on this court case, school now has to disclose it to the family. That family is uber conservative. That family may consider conversion therapy. Now, I don't know a lot about conversion therapy, Sauda, but the idea of I'm going to put you in a medical institution so that they can make you forget about what it is you're thinking, you're feeling, it's insane to me. It's insane, and it's happening more and more and more. And so,
wait, tell me more. What's happening exactly?
So conversion therapy. So if a little boy says, I want to be a girl, conversion therapy, they basically convert that out of you. I don't know what the mechanisms they use.
Yeah, because I'm like, are we talking about back in the day with mental health when they used to put people on electric and try to electrocute them? They're not doing that, are they? We're not going back there, are they?
Let's look it up, Sauda. It is dramatic and drastic what they do to these kids who...
Okay, can you look that up, Naomi?
Yes.
And while you're looking it up, I'm going to tell the audience right now about the cases that started this conversation in California.
Yes.
Okay, so we'll talk about the law. The origin was in 2023, 2 teachers in Escondido Union School District sued their district and the California Attorney General. And they argued that being forced to hide a student's social transition from parents violated their religious and free speech rights. So then this escalated into a class action lawsuit involving California parents. And the outcome in 2026 was a federal district court issued an injunction against the state's non-disclosure rules. So then the state appealed to the Ninth Circuit. In March, the U.S. Supreme Court intervened, blocked the enforcement of the state's non-disclosure restrictions. What that means in layman's terms is you can't do anything right now, lower courts, anything lower than the Supreme Court, because first, the Supreme Court had to make their decision, and the Supreme Court is saying, we are with the parents. The school districts cannot withhold information from parents. So that's how it all went down. It was Chino Valley, California. There's a similar issue. Then there was this underlying legislation, which was this 2024 AB 1955, which is called the Safety Act, and it explicitly prohibited school districts from enacting automatic parental notification policies. All of this is now affected by the Supreme Court. So that's the law for California, Nay.
Thank you for that, Sauda. To give you a clearer definition of conversion therapy. Conversion therapy is
Okay,
an
so we bring it back. I kind of went off the topic,
Yes.
so you can look up conversion. Now you're back to that.
Yes.
Okay, cool.
And this was a tangent. This is just, what may happen in some households if the school discloses that their child is having gender identity thoughts or switching their gender identity. Conversion therapy is an emotional or physical therapy used to cure or repair a person's attraction to the same sex. Providers claim these therapies can make someone heterosexual or straight. Let's take this and break it down. A child says, I was born a boy. They said I was a boy in the hospital, but I feel like I am a girl and I want to experience being a girl. Conversion therapy, it says in some cases, may be violent or torturous. That is
Okay, so
conversion
let me just tell you right now, you don't even have to finish. I know this is supposed to be break the pipeline, and we're not supposed to have sides, but we're going to always have a side. My dad was like, you're an advocate. You got to advocate. Listen, when it comes to abuse of children, that's where I'm going to have a side. The politics aside, I am never going to be okay with abusing a child. And to me, that sounds like abuse. Physical abuse, mental abuse, I'm not with it. That's Sauda talking. That's going off the break the pipeline rules. Okay, sorry. I'm back. Go ahead, Naomi.
This topic is not an easy one, right? Because it's not just does the school withhold information or disclose based on parental rights. It's what happens in some households if certain parents find out information that their child didn't feel comfortable to begin with disclosing. What are the repercussions? This topic has so many layers and so many levels because of that. So, but anyway, this Supreme Court is in favor of schools disclosing and not withholding based on what just happened in California. But you have to follow where that goes. Some states believe in conversion therapy. And I have not seen case law where the U.S.
I don't know why they put therapy in it, but go ahead.
Say that again?
I said, I don't know why they put the word therapy if you abusing a child. What's therapeutic about abuse? But anyway, sorry, please continue.
So that's one of the big issues as far as transgender identity as what's happening right now in the school system. To your original point, as far as the education piece, letting kids know that there's other options could be deemed problematic. There's some children who are fine being a boy or fine being a girl. And now the idea is, if you introduce this concept, do they then start questioning whether they're really a boy or a girl? That's another conversation, I think.
And is that their right? I mean, at the end of the day, when we talk about middle ground, Naomi, you have to fold into the question of how old is the child? Okay? You can't ignore that. What does middle ground mean for this two sides of the argument? Well, for us, I would say, how old is the child? If we're talking about a 5-year-old who may not have this same level of development as a 16-year-old. And I say may because there are 16-year-olds who have disabilities who also have the mind of a 5-year-old. And that, again, is another part of the conversation. If you have a disability, how are you impacted? What is that disability? There is no black or white answer here. What are some other middle grounds that you could think of, Naomi?
It has to be a case-by-case basis. I think, if a child, just taking this transgender subject, for instance, if a child says, I'm fearful of what's going to happen to me if my parents find out, is different from I'm exploring this and I don't know how my parents are going to land on it. It really depends, Sauda, is my best answer.
Yeah, I mean, I hear you on the depends, but that's just going to be very difficult. If someone is on one side of the argument, which is, look, I'm a parent, I want to know. You school are going to just have to let me be over my household. That's just what this boils down to. Because at the end of the day, what happens in my household is my right. I can pull my child out of school and homeschool my child. That's my right to do. You can't take that away from me. Now, if the police need to get involved or somebody else because I'm abusive, then maybe the chips fall where they may. But the school, you don't get to decide that. You're not raising my child. That's just one side of it. And when we talk about middle ground, it's also very much one of these situations where What if the child is suicidal because of being abused at the house? That's another issue that you're going to have. One side is going to be what the parents say. The other side is this school. They're like, look, you decided to put them under our authority. And so now we're not just robots. We're going to have to make some decisions. What do you think, Naomi? Any other middle ground you can think of too? Yeah.
Let's not forget, though, from an administrative perspective, these schools, many of them are bound to follow what the law says. So
because you don't want to lose your job. Hey,
right.
You don't want to lose your job.
If you're in a state that now has been mandated by your courts to disclose, a lot of people are dot their I's and cross their T's. This is what I have to do. And sorry, child, that you just told me your business, but I have to tell your parent. There might not be any other way around that.
I was joking, but people don't want to lose their jobs. People have bills to pay. You know, it's very expensive living in this country.
Again, it depends on the state. New York right now is definitely leans more towards privacy of that child. New York hasn't really been in the media as much as California has. Well, one of the cases right now in New York, obviously they emphasize parental access to records. That's the same in California as well as New York.
Yeah, FERPA is national.
But unlike California, New York has not been in the primary battleground over statewide parental notification. Like California, however, New York recognizes that some information, particularly in healthcare and child protection contexts, may be treated differently under state and federal law. So New York almost uses that case-by-case scenario with an emphasis on child privacy laws as of right now. In terms of the middle ground scenario, let's say a 16-year-old child that does not have disabilities. But let's say that that child goes to a teacher that they trust. That child says, I have something private to share with you because I don't feel comfortable sharing this in my home. And you can pick whatever topic you want. In that scenario, we're in California now. We just went over what the Supreme Court says. What would a school in California do right now based on what we just described in that scenario?
They have to disclose it to the parents. Let's go back to the Supreme Court, which for everyone out there, Supreme Court rules in terms of what other states can do. And parental rights are recognized as a fundamental liberty interest protected primarily by the 14th Amendment, which is the right to direct the upbringing of a child, as well as specific context of the First Amendment, which protects parental rights when a state or school policy interferes with a family's religious beliefs or forces individuals to act against their conscience. So in 2026, Mirabelli v. Bonta, California has to disclose the information to the parent. That's the law. If it is actually something happening in the school district, then we have to talk about breaking that pipeline, because here's the reality. If in your scenario, there is an issue that a child does not want the parents to know, because we don't know what's happening at home. We don't know if they are getting abused or someone's just really mean. Whatever the scenario is, you tell that parent, and you have a child who may not want to come back to school.
That part.
You have a child that may shut down. We talking about breaking pipeline. We have to really think about that. Yes, the law of the Supreme Court says parents have the rights to decide everything they should know. And then you school, you teacher, have to follow that law. But at the same time, what is your moral compass going to do depending on the scenario? And what are you going to put on the line? Are you willing to lose your job? If it means that you know that if this little girl's dad finds out, she's going to come to school next day with black and blue bruises, or may not ever come to school. That's what you're dealing with. And I would not want to be in the shoes of the school district. What are your final thoughts on this, Naomi?
I think the law is just a starting point, honestly, Sauda. Yes, I'm an attorney. You're an attorney. Humans in our society have to factor many different things in making decisions. The law may say they have to disclose, but if they know that disclosing means that that child is going to commit suicide, become homeless, run away, go do the abortion themselves, or just end their life just because they have no other outlet, that administrator will have to weigh all the different factors. To your point, Sauda, there's no easy fix here. There's no way to pick a side. Not that we were trying to, but there's no way to pick a side here. I think it'll depend on a case-by-case basis. The law in each state is a guiding post as well.
We really, truly hope that after hearing what we're talking about, you are a little bit more informed, more educated as to these particular issues. And even if you don't agree with one side versus the other, you at least have the other side's perspective. Because really, that's what we want at Break the Pipeline, to truly listen to the other side's perspective and really see how sometimes it's not just black or white. It can really be some gray area. And particularly when it comes to our kids, which is really all we talk about here, is how do things that are happening in society impact our children. So thank you for joining us today. This was a great topic. No, please go ahead, Naomi.
Have one final thought, which I think we've glossed over. We can't forget to acknowledge the fact that these children are individuals who the parents have been tasked with raising, but they're creating their own experience in this world, right? Children have to have a safe space to be able to discuss issues that they may be experiencing that happen to be at the forefront of the conversation today, but that may be causing them to go to sleep every day crying. I think we have to honor that these children need a safe space to speak on whatever issues they're going through. I just wanted to close off.
No, yeah, that's true. And of course, one parent is going to say, well, I need to be that safe space. Well, then you have to do the job to make sure you are that safe space, right? So,
Correct.
And that gets into a whole nother topic in terms of what type of parent are you? What type of safe space are you providing? If you really truly want your child to tell you what's happening, then that's something you need to think about. Anyway, great discussion, Naomi. Thank you so much. And thank everyone out there for joining us.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Sauda.
Bye.
Our goal with this podcast is to show two opposing views of our society. And it's not necessarily our own opinions, but we do hope that our listeners can understand that there are serious issues and not everyone is on the same page all the time. And our hope is to bring it to the community at large.
So if you want real talk, compassion, and legal insight from attorneys who care deeply about our youth, you are in the right place. We're the law offices of Sauda Johnson, PC, and this is Break the Pipeline.